Well, howdy folks, here we are in San Bernardino, California, off on another SoCal adventure. Today I am at San Bernardino train station, and we're going to ride Metrolink 325 to LA Union Station, downtown San Bernardino. From there we're going to transfer to the Metro, Red Line, the Expo Line, and finally to our destination. And today's adventure, which is the California Science Center. With natural gas prices so high, I thought I would try to do something that's fairly cheap and free. Usually I go to, paid events and other things like that. But let's show you some of the free things you can do in Southern California. Just an absolutely beautiful and historic train station as well. They still got the largely kind of looks the same as when it was first built. Beautiful Mission architecture. And across from the passenger boarding platforms, there is the BNSF rail yard. This is the start and end of the famous Cajon Pass route. A pretty challenging and wildly popular with rail enthusiasts. This is where the trains begin their journey up the Cajon Pass, or this is where they come once that journey is completed. BNSF, Burlington Northern Santa Fe. But now we're going to await our Metrolink train. Should be arriving in just a couple of minutes. And should be arriving from the east, where Metrolink has a rail yard. So let's see if it comes on time today. Just an absolute windy day today.
Man, you got a good ass here. Yeah.
If this is your destination, please watch your step and use handles when leaving through the train to the north. Cal State LA is our next stop.
Anybody that listens to this podcast or vlog knows that I always recommend not riding LA Metro. Well, we're gonna completely disregard my sound advice, and we're gonna ride LA Metro to the or should I say the California Science Center. Let's head on in. Bring your defensive weapons and keep your back to the wall at all times. As you can see, they put a lot of effort into trying to revitalize it, clean it up, but you know, it's all in vain. There's just vagrants everywhere, hopelessly addicted or mentally ill. People have lost complete control of their lives. Now, in all complete fairness, they do have quite a bit of security now, but they've replaced a lot of the deputies that have been here. So, if you bought a Metrolink ticket as I did, Metrolink is transferable for almost all Metro and a lot of other transit as well. One of the exceptions is, of course, express buses or a special event to some extent. So make sure you read all the terms and conditions before you transfer so you don't get a ticket. Not that avoiding a fare is punishable or even enforced in LA anymore. Lots of rules, most of which are not enforced, sadly. So this is the Metro Red Line subway. So what we'll be doing here is taking the Metro Red Line subway to 7th and Metro Center and transferring from there to the Expo line, which will take us to USC and the California Science Center. Our own little slice of New York, the LA Metro subway. You hear that? That is a homage to Pacific Electric. Some of the actual subway cars and light rail actually make that sound. And that is the sound of what Pacific Electric red car trolleys used to make. Once we get back to the Orange Empire Railway Museum, I'll show you guys what I mean. But for now, let's board the Metro Red Line. What's up? Come on. Personally, I would not sit on any of these seats. Unfortunately, a lot of people do defecate and urinate on them. It's all yours, man. And what I would do is just be aware of your surroundings, keep your back to the wall. Alright, subway we just got off of is downstairs. Let's take the escalator upstairs. And you'll have two different kinds of trains up here, so make sure you get on the right one. If you get on the Metro at all, which as always I suggest you don't. If you like to live dangerously like I do. This Metro train is the A Blue train. This takes you down to Long Beach. That is not what you want to get on.
Please stand clear. The doors are closing.
You want to get on the light blue E train to Santa Monica. That will take you to Expo Center and the California Science Center. So 7th and Metro Center is pretty confusing. Now, downstairs, we just got off the red line. What you'll do is take the escalator up to the top. Once you get up here, the first thing you're going to come to is the A train, blue train, to Long Beach. That is not the train you want to get on. You want to cross over the tracks here and get on the E train, light blue, to the, well, its destination is Santa Monica. But you want to take that to, obviously, the Expo Center and USC, and of course our destination today, the California Science Center. So let's cross the tracks. Across the tracks to the E train. We're going to take the escalator up and over. There's our train arriving. Let's see if we can make it on board before it leaves.
This is your metro, so let's watch out for one another. Please report any unwanted detention or other incidents by using the train intercom, calling our law enforcement hotline at 888-950-SAFE, or by speaking with any uniformed security personnel.
Este es un metro, así que cuidémonos unos a otros. Por favor, reporte cualquier contacto no deseado u otros incidentes.
Now, this may look like a subway, but in reality it's a light rail train to Santa Monica. This will take you all the way almost to the pier.
The next stop is downtown Santa Monica Station, Colorado. Exit here.
So pretty quickly here we'll head up to the blue sunshine, and we'll be outside again.
stop is Expo Park, USB Station. Exit here for California Science Center, Natural History Museum, California African American Museum, LA Memorial Coliseum, and Bank of California Stadium. Now arriving, Expo Park, USB Station. Exit here for California Science Center, Natural History Museum, California African American Museum, LA Memorial Coliseum, and Bank of California Stadium.
Please stand clear. The doors are closing.
Alright folks, so that was my short little travel on the LA Metro, both the Red Line and the Expo line to Santa Monica. So right there we have beautiful University of Southern California, world famous. But we're not headed there today. Perhaps on another day we'll actually go here. You know, we will. I think we will go here. And do an episode walk around, see some of the sites, historical monuments, maybe some of the museums. But today, we are headed across the street to Expo Park. And there, my friends, is the beautiful California Science Center. Home of some amazing exhibits, including the Space Shuttle Endeavour, which we are going to see today. Let's go. Alright, we're on our way. Here's the route map for all of LA Metro. Now, one thing that you can't appreciate by watching a video of riding Metro is the smells. There is just a ton of smell. It's like a combination of urine, feces, and chlorine, like used to clean the trains constantly. Once you get out, you really do breathe a sigh of relief, of fresh air. But once you board the train, whether it's at a station like this or even underground, it's noticeable pretty quick, especially for someone like me that just does not ride public transportation outside of commuter rail or long distance trains, or legacy trains. Got LAPD protecting the Expo Park. But anyways, back on Metro Rail. There's a reason I don't suggest riding Metro Rail for anybody. And that's just because even if you bypass the fact that it's unsafe, it's just intimidating. There's a lot of intimidating people on there, eyeing you up, often cursing at you, people sleeping on the train. One funny thing that happens to me when I ride LA Metro is people tend to congregate over towards me because I'm usually kind of clean cut. You know, I'm a little out of shape, but I'm a bigger guy. and especially young ladies. And I always like that because you know, I love making people feel safe. It's one reason I got into law enforcement originally, is I just love making people feel safe and knowing that I'll be there if anything happens. But anyways, this is the Exposition Park Rose Garden, established in 1927. Unfortunately, it's closed right now, so we can't walk through, but we're going to walk around and go to the California Science Center. There are many static aircraft displays here, and one of the newer additions, I believe, is the United DC-8 jet. This was kind of a precursor to the 737s, and I believe United donated this aircraft, because I don't remember seeing it on my many previous trips here, but I believe they donated it when they sponsored USC's Memorial Coliseum for their football games, which is now United Airlines Field. And of course, United Airlines also transports the USC football team. So Exposition Park's pretty safe. CHP is always here because this is technically a state park, as well as California State Park Rangers. So here is California African American Museum, but we are headed for the California Science Center, so let's continue that way. Almost there. Now, if you're rightfully choosing to drive to the California Science Center, I believe parking is about $20. I'll make sure I get the correct amount on the podcast itself, but you'll be relegated to this parking lot. Much better than riding Metro, I assure you. You could also leave LA Union Station and take Uber or Lyft. But one of the first displays you'll come across is the SR-71 Blackbird. Now, this aircraft, whether you geek out over jets and the aerospace industry or not, is truly one of our greatest jet engine aircraft. Just the stories that come out of this aircraft alone is almost unbelievable. For example, the time that it took off from one place and landed in the other, almost a complete day in the past. The time Russia tried to shoot it down and basically just gave up because the Blackbird was so fast that the missiles couldn't even keep up with it. Truly, this is it's almost like this was the peak of our engineering marvels as far as top secret space aircraft. But of course, I don't believe that's true. I think we have even more amazing aircraft that we don't know about, and it should stay that way since we still have lots of enemies worldwide. But here is an actual SR-71 Blackbird. Would you believe me if I told you that this truck, this Toyota Tundra, pulled one of our space shuttles across to Los Angeles, specifically a bridge? Well, it did. Now, that's kind of believable. I guess you could see that, right? Towing an empty space shuttle across the bridge in Los Angeles to its final home, the California Science Center. But would you also believe that you or one of your kids can actually lift this entire truck with your own power? £6,645. And this is why the California Science Center is so amazing. There's so many hands-on displays that you and your kids can touch and feel and just experiment on. Teaching you about a lever system like this, if for lack of better words. If you try to pull here, it's 4 times the amount of effort, 2 times, and finally, it only takes the same amount of effort, 1 time the amount of effort to actually pull this truck up. So basically it's a lever, really old technology, right? And like it explains here, it doesn't make you stronger. It just helps you use more of the strength that you already have. So if we tried to lift on 4, it'd probably be impossible. But can we do it with 1 times the amount of effort? We sure can. Trying to lift it. It's kind of hard holding the GoPro. But as you can see, the truck moved. I just lifted a Toyota Tundra with my arms. And this is just some of what you're going to experience here at the California Science Center. So let's finally get in there and check it out, right? So once you get here, to the left is the IMAX theater. Unfortunately, we don't have time to sit and watch a show today. We're exploring exhibits. And to the right is the entrance to the California Science Center. Now you'll notice no ticket windows, except for IMAX. No lines. Come as you may, completely free. This amazing museum is free, and you're going to find out why it's amazing. Let's go in and check it out. First thing I'm going to do though is grab some grub. It's been a long trip and I'm hungry. So if you eat here, you got your choice of pizza, tacos over there, and over here a bakery, as well as a juicer, market, and grill. I'm up for a burger, so let's go grab one. Burger and fries, and a Coke. Bon appetit. Okay, now that I've had some energy intake, my body should be able to export performance. Most of the stuff is upstairs, most of the exhibits. So once you enter, you can go to the store or head upstairs. Let's head upstairs. Immediately to the right is going to be a bunch of space artifacts. Some original, some recreations. Mercury Redstone 2 capsule. Holy smokes, imagine sitting in here. Those with claustrophobia need not apply. Okay, I figured out why it's so small. Because I thought it was small even by space standards. But this actually was a trainer for the chimpanzee astronaut Ham. And he did a few flight tests in this. But this is the original, and it's on loan from the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum. Now I know it's a trainer, but I have to wonder Why so many dials? Is the chimpanzee gonna actually learn how to do some of this? Or was that settings for the scientists to set up before they got in? Not sure. This is the Cassini spacecraft, first aircraft, or I should say spacecraft, ever to orbit Saturn. Donated by the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena. Incredible. So I know some of these are models, but these are the real things. This guy was pretty small. A little bit bigger is this spacecraft, Gemini 11, which was used to practice docking in preparation for the actual moon mission, Apollo 11. Incredibly claustrophobic. I don't consider myself that claustrophobic, but I know my limits, and I don't think I could do this. What about you guys? From humble beginnings to space. It's been a long road, huh? So this spacecraft is the Apollo-Soyuz command module. And in 1975 it was used for the very first docking mission with a Soviet Soyuz spacecraft. So one of the very first missions, and from there we used a lot of Soviet rockets to get into space, especially at the conclusion of the space shuttle program. But now, thanks to SpaceX and Elon Musk, we're back in business, baby, with the Dragon capsules. Really incredible if you see it up close. Just you can see all the flame damage. Is that even the right word? Flame damage? This is a full-scale prototype of the twin Viking landers that landed on Mars in 1976. They were the first successful landers on Mars. They landed in 1976, by the way. And that's where I had lunch. If you enjoy VR simulators, right at the end of the space exhibit is a bunch of simulators, including a mock-up of the Space Shuttle Endeavour that you can get in and actually press buttons and pretend like you're going to space. Alright, we're off to the Sketch Air and Space exhibit. And the first thing that pops in here is an Apollo Command Module spacesuit worn by module pilot Thomas K. Mattingly. This was for Apollo 16, the lunar mission. Imagine how much science went into this suit. It's got to protect you from radiation, extreme temperatures, micrometeoroids. Can you even imagine that? Little micrometeoroids that could potentially hit and kill you. It has 21 layers and weighs 185 earth pounds. And obviously it has the life support system as well. Now compare that and contrast it with the Project Mercury test training suit. Looks like something you'd wear on a jog, huh? This was made by the B.F. Goodrich Company in 1960 for test and evaluation training. And it's pretty much identical to what the Mercury astronauts wore when they actually did go to space. It's only 20 pounds in comparison to that 168 pound suit, fully pressurized with rubber and nylon. Big difference here, this was not intended for wear outside of a pressurized space capsule. Still pretty incredible. Look at those metallic, looks like somebody painted over them with silver, huh? Some metallic boots. Here is the Hubble Space Telescope, obviously a model and 1/5 the size of the actual Hubble telescope. The real one's about the size of a school bus. Hubble telescope was launched on April 24th, 1990 by Space Shuttle Discovery. And it's the actual Hubble telescope, which is still in space, takes about 95 minutes to orbit around Earth. And Hubble telescope, currently orbiting around us now, is moving at 16,900 miles per hour at an altitude of 370 miles above the Earth. Over here we have the Spitzer Space Telescope, also a 1/5 scale. And it has infrared sensors that's used to detect heat from objects that are basically our eyes and our telescopes can't see. Spitzer was launched on August 25th, 2003. And it takes about a year. It's currently evaluating the sun. It takes about a year for it to orbit around the sun. Here's an actual Mercury space helmet. Look at that. It's almost like something you'd wear if you're riding a motorcycle these days, huh? Including life support system. Oh no, that's communications. So that was for radio frequency and transmission. They also have some real meteorites on display here. Look at those. Imagine how long those were just flying around space, way out in the complete unknown. We're talking Deep Space Nine here. And they fell to Earth, and now you can look at them. Really incredible to even possibly imagine where these came from or how far they had to travel before they just, by some miraculous chance, came to Earth. Here's some more meteorites. This one's made of iron. This one's made of stony iron. Look at that. It just looks like metal. And we all know what happens when one of these small things hits the actual Earth. You get a huge crater. Finally in this exhibit is the Chandra Space Telescope. Just like the other two, it's also 1/5 scale. Chandra orbits the Earth to look at high-energy X-ray light from stars and galaxies. light that can't go through our atmosphere. So it has to be in space. Chandra is as large as a big rig trailer. And this was launched on July 23rd, 1999 by Space Shuttle Columbia. And we all remember Columbia and what unfortunately happened to that. Time to orbit the Earth for this satellite, or I'm sorry, space telescope, is 64 hours. Here's a model of the Wright brothers plane, which was built in 1902. It has a wingspan of 32 feet and weighs only 125 pounds. Really incredible, huh? Now, pro tip, if you want to see the actual, original, real Wright brothers glider, you only need to go to Washington, D.C. and check out the National Air and Space Museum. It's actually there. I couldn't believe it either. And the aircraft over here is a Veli monocoupe. Very classic plane, built 1928 with a top speed of 100 miles per hour and a wingspan of 30 feet. This is like the first Cessna, huh? If you want to learn all about COVID and how to stop the transmission, why you should wear your mask, you can come to this exhibit. But not me. Let's move on. We're now headed to one of my favorite exhibits in the entire California Science Center, and that is ecosystems. Not only is Endeavor over here, but so is my favorite exhibit of all, the kelp reef, or as it's known to us scuba divers, the kelp forest. This is what you'll see if you go scuba diving. Especially kelp forest. It really is as magical as this film portrays it to be. But don't take my word for it. Let's go actually see it. Here we are at the kelp forest. Now it looks like they're doing some remodeling, but we should still be able to see the actual kelp forest itself. And if you scuba dive off the California coast, as I do many times, this is close to what you're going to see. You see that giant goldfish? That is called a Garibaldi, the California State Marine animal. He must be attracted to my camera light, as he's giving us a little show today.
Are you okay? Is it the water? Is it too cold for you?
Because look at the fish.
Right there, look, better to get you and eat you.
Is that a piranha?
Who?
It kind of looks like one.
Oh my god, it looks like
That one, like that one's the one that keeps throwing himself on the ground. Oh, you see the ones in the bottom?
Yeah, they just chill.
They said they do that too.
They just chill at the bottom.
Leopard shark.
Water?
Mommy,
Yeah.
look at that. What I don't know what it does.
Of distress.
And then what
Look
is
at
that?
that. That one up there is just moving.
Oh, I can find.
Like chilling.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Papa, be careful with the
Be careful with the
baby.
baby.
Careful, Papa. Watch your step. You know?
Look, that one is tonight.
Mommy, we're getting closer.
You think the shark's gonna bite you?
And now the site you guys are probably more familiar with, the shoreline. You can see how they make waves, which is essential to kelp. Without wave action, kelp cannot survive. Only thing we're missing here is a endless amount of seagulls trying to steal your chips. Not only are waves essential to kelp, but they're also essential to the animals that are living in the display downstairs that we just saw. So it's crucial that they mimic their home that they've adapted for and evolved to be in as much as possible. As I mentioned, there's plenty of hands-on stuff to do here with kids, including the touch tank. If you go scuba diving, you'll see that there's quite a few sea urchins off the coast. So many, in fact, that they're actually kind of a nuisance pest because we're trying to preserve algae, which is what kelp is. And these guys are all over the place off the coast. So many that they're actually endangering the kelp. So what scuba divers have been doing is actually taking these guys and taking them out further in the ocean and dropping them off, basically to kill them with the blessing of the state, just because we don't want the sea urchins to die off, but they're such a threat to kelp, which is in danger of, you know, due to pollution and everything else. They're such a danger that they actually receive the state's blessing to exterminate some of this. You don't know what it feels like? Very coarse. Not soft at all. Feels like you're scraping granite.
Anything else? They can really like stick their
Whoa, I want to see the fish that I ever seen.
They can crack it.
Why is it gonna
I think after
I'll tell you, I own a saltwater aquarium, and at one point, algae started taking over the whole tank because my nitrates were too high. I popped in 3 Mexican turbo snails, which is not what this is, but looks very similar, and they completely wiped out the algae, ate it all. So much in fact that I actually had to put algae back in the tank now to keep them alive. This is an abalone, by the way. They eat kelp, but they're not a nuisance pest like the urchins are. There's not so many of them that they're going to wipe out the kelp. We're now entering the extreme zone, and there's 2 different sections in here. Complete extreme opposites: the poles and the desert. Let's check out the poles. Looks like this is specifically an exhibit on how humans stay alive in the poles and conduct research.
I love this.
This is the pelt of a polar bear, an actual real polar bear. This was provided by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and unfortunately, the person that killed this bear was forced to do so out of self-defense because it got too aggressive with him. So U.S. Fish and Wildlife donated it here to the California Science Center for educational purposes. And this is a real piece of ice that you can interact with and touch. Usually there's items here that you can play around with to test what insulates you best, but there's nothing here at the moment, so let's just touch it. Pretty cold. I guess it gives me a shiver throughout my body. Very cold. I like how they even kind of turn the air conditioning on here to make it colder too. It really adds to the environment of all the displays. So that was the extreme cold. Let's go check out the extreme heat. Here's the desert exhibit. And here's something you don't generally see a lot of in the desert: water. This is made to simulate a flash flood. However, if you've actually seen a flash flood, this is more like a babbling brook than an actual flash flood. And flash floods are usually dirty and carry a lot of debris in them. This is more the tail end of a flash flood. What's cool about the desert exhibit is they have a ton of different animals that you can actually see. Such as Gia monsters, of which I don't see at the moment. A Sonoran desert millipede. And it looks like a few other animals which are hiding or not on display today.
So you like this quick list like a desert? It is like a desert, yeah.
I wonder what they have in here. Given the size and the actual display box, I'm thinking maybe a fox or maybe a small coyote.
Yeah, you see the fox there?
There he is. Thank you. There he is, sleeping away. Cute little guy. And it looks like there's enough in here to keep them entertained and proactive. Sticks and places to hide and play and jump over. Really cool display. I know what he's waiting for. He's waiting for nighttime where he can go hunt. Get himself a nice kangaroo rat. Over here we have what appears to be a desert spiny lizard. They definitely have the right spot, huh? Right under the light heat lamp. They seem pretty content with their life here. And over here is a desert iguana. I saw one of these guys over at the gas domes at Ocotillo Wells when I did my episode on ATV riding out in the desert and rentals. So what we saw there specifically was called a fennec fox. They have huge ears that help them hunt for prey hiding underground. But they also release body heat during the day to keep them cool. Very clever. Well, look at that, long-legged ants. These are honey ants, and this is what one of their nests might look like underground. Really cool. You can see underground and watch them. Nothing in here, at least not that I see. Oh, it's another. I see. I do see. It's a place for the ants to go out and explore and get food. Pretty cool. Now entering the river zone. Now when you think of SoCal, you think of usually Mediterranean climate, very dry, very warm, very little rain. But SoCal does in fact have quite a few channels and rivers that run year-round. From the Santa Ana to the LA River, and really everything in between. And as I explained before, lots of hands-on opportunity for your kids to really get in there and get dirty. And don't worry, there's hand washing stations around the corner. But just to play and see how, like in this example, how erosion works and how water, finds a way to the path of least resistance almost. And right here in California, including SoCal, plenty of trout in our rivers and streams. Trout are more, they're in better and greater numbers up in the Sierras. Honestly, the only place you're probably going to find trout down here is stock the lakes. Boy, they're hungry. What are they eating, I wonder? They found something to eat. These are stillhead trout. Here's the rot room, another aspect of ecosystems, and just as important as any part of it, whether termites or beetles or cockroaches, these guys clean up after a tree falls or an animal dies. These are best bugs, by the way. They live in fallen logs and stumps in the southeastern United States. It always reminds me of It's Tough to Be a Bug, that theater show from Walt Disney World and previously California Adventure. You know, if it wasn't for the fact that we like the taste, you'd be wallowing in shoulder-high waist. Maggots. You want to see some maggots? They're here. I've always wondered why maggots ended up getting such a huge negative. Conveniently located nearby the rot room is the family discovery room. It's mostly made for younger children, and it kind of looks like a Dr. Seuss book in real life. So this section's all about global warming, climate change, and everything else. Before we get to Space Shuttle Endeavour, there's a little exhibit about it and its journey to SoCal. Let's check it out. Imagine how proud Michelin was when they got the contract to make the space shuttle tires. So I remember watching this when in 2012 when Endeavour first opened up here at the California Science Center, and just how people gasped at how incredible it was. This journey from really when it started, when 747 landed at LAX with the space shuttle on the back, and it traveled through city streets, neighborhoods, around businesses, and not just highways and freeways either. We're talking residential streets, and in some cases literally like an inch from scraping the side of buildings or trees in some cases, or being towed across specific overpasses by a Toyota Tundra. Just really incredible. Watch this video. I'm gonna actually show the whole thing because I just thought it was incredible the first time I watched it, and incredible now. By the way, those fighter jets weren't necessarily there to protect it. but more so to keep an eye on it, make sure nothing screwy was going on. They were observer planes, making sure it was stable and everything else. I want to talk about teamwork. Holy smokes. just the teamwork and planning for that whole thing, inch by inch, you know, incredible, right? There's so much history, huh?
As Endeavour continues to power its way into orbit, traveling 4,000 miles per hour downrange, 90 miles altitude, 50 miles, 3 minutes, 15 seconds into the flight.
By the way, real actual recording, by the way. All right, anybody need to use the restroom before we leave? Here's the LA zone. You might think LA is pretty lifeless with buildings and urban infrastructure, but you may be surprised how much is actually here. Coyotes, bears, mountain lions. Remember P-22? That is famous because he lived around the Hollywood sign. This section will kind of teach you about how we kind of coexist together with stuff that lives in the area. Even where I live, up in Ryewood, lots of animals, bears, foxes, coyotes. Mountain lion lives nearby me. We gotta coexist, guys. Okay, I've saved the best for last, as always. The Space Shuttle Endeavour. It's really here, and we're about to see it. By the way, does that backdrop the space shuttle's landing in look familiar? That is Edwards Air Force Base, where I used to work and where we did the Aerospace Alley Air Show podcast episode. So take a listen to that one if you haven't. Space shuttles are long gone, unfortunately, but the technology and the testing of the aerospace universe, which is Edwards Air Force Base, is still there and alive and well. Let's go check out the space shuttle. Now, when I first came to the California Science Center many years ago, there was such a huge demand to see the space shuttle that it booked out months in advance. And there was always long lines, and when you went inside, it was just packed to the brim. Well, I'm happy to report now that things have calmed down a little bit. Californians went back to their reality TV shows and sitting on the beach. And now us actual aviation geeks and space geeks can have it to ourselves almost. This is Space Shuttle Endeavour. It's so quiet and somber in here, almost like reverence in the presence of such an amazing piece of American engineering. If you want to see a quick time. Now, this is his temporary home. They actually want to put Endeavour on a bigger display in a new building, and they'll actually have it upright like it's ready to launch, and they're hoping even for some interior exhibits as well. That will be absolutely incredible when, not if, they do that. Because it's pretty much set in stone now. They're just awaiting additional permits and funding to get that built. I mean, it's so close. You can actually almost, it almost feels like you can just reach up and just touch it. Just out of reach, but you can see all the foam blocks that are still there. They're protected upon re-entry. Genius technology that worked for the most part, but unfortunately failed in one instance with Columbia. Space Shuttle Endeavour. So as I explained earlier, the California Science Center is actually trying to, not necessarily trying, but they are going to build a Air and Space Center. And it's really going to rival the National Air and Space Center on the East Coast. Look at that. Everything in there from Wright Brother prototypes to 747s to simulators, and of course the upright Endeavour space shuttle, including exhibits that you can interact with. Of course, when this is built, we'll be right here to showcase it all. Each of these space shuttle mission information panels here on display at the Endeavour exhibit are very colorful, but there's two of them here which are black, and that's Challenger and of course Space Shuttle Columbia. Unfortunately, Space Shuttle Columbia broke up because the foam panels you saw earlier in this vlog that cover the entire bottom and around, they got damaged by ice on liftoff. Enough so that when it came back in, the re-entry was too extreme and broke up the aircraft and unfortunately killed the whole crew. beginning to the end, Atlantis. 12-day mission to the International Space Station. When the Obama administration shut down the program. About 30 years of use. Fortunately, SpaceX has us covered. We no longer have to use Russian rockets anymore. And we're back in business, baby. With a little thanks to Elon Musk. Love him or hate him, the guy's done some good. The space shuttle requires 3 huge rocket engines to break orbit and make it to space. Those are huge enough as it is, but to see one up close in all its glory is just incredible as well. I mean, imagine how much scientific advancement and trial and error and engineering went into every single one of those pipes or tubes to make this work. And that's just one tiny aspect of the whole space shuttle itself. One thing's for sure, you probably don't want to be on this end when it's time for liftoff. There's also a small shop here if you want to buy any space or NASA related items. But when you stand here and you look at Endeavour and you take pause for a minute, it's kind of sad to think that that the program ended at all. Perhaps a little prematurely, although I think we've gone above and beyond now with SpaceX. But it's also a little sad to think that while Endeavour's here and Atlantis and the other spacecraft, space shuttles, it's kind of sad to think that Challenger or Columbia could have been here. This very well could have said Columbia on the side or Challenger. But whether you want to call it fate or accidents or mistakes or whatever you want to call it, they're not. They're gone. Disintegrated. They're in a warehouse somewhere in pieces. I've always considered myself a pretty brave person, but even with all the training and knowledge, I don't know if I would sit in one of these and go out into space. And that's one of the reasons why, my hat is completely off to astronauts and test pilots and everyone else that does this for a living and for the greater good of mankind. So that's Space Shuttle Endeavour. Here's the future of the California Science Center, the Samuel Ocean Air and Space Center, now under construction. Coming soon. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the One Day in SoCal vlog. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.